Mini episode 1604 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
And here's the thing, too, is that, for anybody that's, seeking us out to listen to us talking wrestling together, might very well be people that go back to when we were the fifth Beatles on the incomparable Sunday Night Submission show, the best pro wrestling show at the Sports Talk Network, by the way.
I like to think that the pencil listens to us.
Yes, I would like to think so as well. I love the pencil and I respect his work. And again, I wish I had the stomach to watch more of the product that he writes for. But it's a thing of I'm also just frustrated by the fact that I'm not watching a show where the pencil can do everything he wants to do. I'm a pencil absolutist, Jake Digman. So
So here's the thing that it's one of the games I have. It's called Find Ryan. Where's Waldo and where's Ryan? And like the other day, he was just walking down a hallway. I'm like,
really?
Yeah, he's just walking down a hallway. It was the back of his head, but I mean,
dude.
Unless just another short, little tiny bald dude there.
Our buddy accounts. He accounts for 99% in the history of WWE of writers being used for sight gags. Okay, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he is the little guy, but it's
I think it's because he's there.
Okay.
To be honest, I think he actually, I'm going to break the fourth wall here a little bit, all right? He told me, it's because he's literally there. That's all it is. They're like, oh, hey, we need somebody for, there was one where he was in, a hotel, I think, with Del Rio.
Okay.
And, somebody asked, hey, where did he go? And it's he was standing there. My favorite one of all time was the one where he found Jericho's list. I thought that was hysterical.
That one was incredible.
He's just you got your list over there. I'm like, oh my God!
Here's the funny thing, is that you talk about breaking the fourth wall. They did that one time, literally, for anybody that was in the know, which is a tiny percentage of the audience, when he was the lead writer of SmackDown, and they went back to Gorilla. And he's there, comically cowering in the background as AJ Styles is going after the boss, Shane McMahon, while, the actual booker is there in the background. And it's for people who understand pro wrestling, this is the greatest, funniest moment in the history of the medium. Because of
I was thinking of the early one, which might have been his first ever cameo, where DX was doing a whole thing when they had a Hollywood writers' strike.
Okay.
And they were like, who wrote this? They're reading the list, and Shawn Michaels and Triple H is like, who wrote this? They go, oh, we don't have any writers. And they look up, and there's pencil, and he stands, that's Ryan, he's standing there, and all of a sudden he's looking, he's like, and he just runs off and hides. He's like, what writer can we blame this on? He's like, uh-oh, and he runs away. It's
that's amazing.
I was with him in it. Yeah. I mean, I was like, right when he first started there, I'm just like, I actually didn't know it was him. I did a double take. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. How'd you get there? Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to reference.
If that's how you found out he was working there, that's the greatest story ever. If that was your first hint that he was there. Because it was I know it kind of leaked out to a couple of us subsequently, which I don't blame him for. I don't blame him for that at all. You got to keep a low profile, but that would be hilarious if that turned out to be the first moment you realized it. But well, as far as the in-ring shenanigans here, the remaining match that I think is going to go night one, because I think they're breaking this off from the night two stuff, Hell in a Cell, Edge v. the Demon, Finn Balor. Which, again, they've already demystified the demon thing. Already sacrificed him to Roman Reigns with the, whoops, I slipped off the top rope dealio. And it's just a thing where the whole thing of, Edge having potential dream matches when he came back. Okay, AJ Styles, and I think that got kind of the storytelling on that one really kind of sucked. But at least it was a thing of like, well, Edge was the biggest guy in one place, and AJ Styles was the biggest. Well, it's the biggest guy next to Cena, but work with me here. And Batista, well, okay, one of the biggest guys, okay, and AJ Styles is one of the biggest guys in another place. Like, but this is a thing of like, what a dream match, Edge against the guy who really blew up 2 years after Edge retired, like. It's like Edge and it's not even like they wrestle the same kind of style. It's not, there's all these kind of things to, okay, Edge can do a dark, brooding character, and that's what Judgment Day is all about at this point anyways, and they're the guys that took it away from him. So it's like, there is the storyline aspect of this, but it's just, I don't know, like, Edge's entire comeback peaked with, you and I saw it, the night of the Royal Rumble. I mean, it was like, and it's one of the most incredible, most emotional moments as a wrestling fan I can ever remember. But it's literally been all downhill since then, and this is going to be, part of that. Is this going to be a fine match? Probably. But, typical Hell in a Cell these days, it's not going to have any blood or anything, so it'll be a pretty good match. But by the classic standards of Hell in a Cell from back in the day, nothing to write home about, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they'll do the modern day spots. I mean, I would love to see blood, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
Unfortunately. I mean, unless Gangrel comes out and he spits some out of his,
He's supposed to be there.
Blood out of his. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Good for Gangrel getting a WrestleMania payday.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I worked with him several shows several years ago.
Ah, okay. Good for him.
Super. By the the first show I worked with him, I was like, oh my God, it's Gangrel. By like show number 3, I was like, hey, Dave. Kind of fun, but here's an interesting factoid on the Demon. And I agree, the ropes fell and he lost, which was after he did that whatever convulse gyration thing was, which was just stupid. The Demon only loses in the WWE to Samoan guys named Joe.
Yep.
Therefore, the Demon is going over in this match, in my opinion.
He should.
I think that Finn Balor's going to go over here, and how much more do we have left with Edge? Who knows? And I hate to say it, but I have to agree with you, man. The comeback peaked in that moment at the Rumble. You wanted to get behind him, for the whole. I don't think the next year there could have been a story there the next year at WrestleMania when he won the Rumble and went on to face Roman Reigns to try to win back the variation of the championship that he had to give away 11 years to that day. There was so much story there, and they just shoehorned Daniel Bryan in for no reason, and it just killed it.
Yep.
Like, it killed it flat. It was like, you had something absolutely amazing where the crowd wanted to get behind it, be like, okay, if for nothing else, have him get back what he lost, the whole redemption story, and they dropped the ball on it. The whole ill-fated Judgment Day turn was just no one wants to boo legends, especially a guy who had come back from career-ending injury like that.
Right.
People don't want to boo it. It's like, because they know we only have so much time. It's like when they kept trying to turn Ric Flair here at the end of his career. Like, no one wanted to boo him because you don't know how much time you have left. And so to have each moment that's here, unfortunately, like you said, everything has gotten just fell flat from that terrible feud with Randy Orton to what looked good, the feud with AJ Styles, fell completely flat. And this is just me nitpicking here. I get why they're doing the Demon and Finn Balor and everything, but in my opinion, this should be Damian Priest in this spot. He's the one that Edge picked as his protege that was, coming up. Balor had nothing to do with it. He was the guy that was just added at the last second. In my opinion, it should be Damian Priest in this position that's facing Edge in the Hell in a Cell to tie that whole teacher versus student story to go full circle, and then Priest being the one who goes over. But that's just me nitpicking.
No, I would agree. And the fact that he's not on this show is pretty shameful. Again, I'm never going to bitch about Finn Balor being on there. One of the best guys in the company still at this point, but particularly in that Judgment Day role. And as a heel, he's got a ceiling on him. Finn Balor, as a face, I think could still be one of their biggest stars. But again, in a company where Vince is always like 2 seconds away from potentially regaining control, Finn Balor will never again become a main event face after being the first Universal Champion briefly.
I was about to say, trivia question, did you know he was the first ever Universal Champion?
Yeah.
And then he never got a sniff at it again.
Exactly. Yeah, you could probably win a lot of bar bets with that one based on the way his career has gone since then. But just everything with Edge, it's a thing. I'm so glad you brought up Ric Flair because that's always the classic example, whether it be WCW 99 to 01 or whether it be Triple H's Reign of Terror. Like Ric Flair, and I think he's the greatest of all time, but his insistence on being a heel helped kill the territory both instances because it's demoralizing. At that stage of his career, nobody wanted to boo Ric Flair. And like TNA Ric Flair, same thing.
I was thinking TNA Ric Flair.
TNA Ric Flair. Nobody wants to boo Ric Flair. I understand he's most comfortable as a heel, but at the end of the day, you have to recognize that the boulder you're trying to push up the hill is way too big. You cannot get over as a heel. Ric Flair was never over as a heel. I like the last time it probably happened was maybe when he turned on Piper in '97. That was probably like the last time that it ever worked. And like Edge as a heel, that was disastrous. Edge's whole thing against Rollins, that to me was kind of a dumb feud. This one's not much better. Hell in a Cell. Yeah, I mean, look, both of these guys, they'll take some chances. They'll get a decent match out of it, but not at classic Hell in a Cell standards. The next two matches here I'm prepared to completely crap on and probably not spend much time on. The WrestleMania Showcase matches, men and women's, four-way tag team title matches that presumably will be number one contender matches, presumably in both cases. The women's match, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Natalya and Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Outside of Rousey and Baszler, all of these looking pretty thrown together, if you ask me. And again, Rousey and Baszler, they're the only ones that make sense as far as going over with the whole MMA badasses thing here. And again, I've already said it's not going to beat this into the ground anymore. Should have been Ronda and Becky in here. It's a thing where it's shameful, though. I'm just going to go back to this. You have Becky Lynch buried in a meaningless six-woman tag, and Ronda Rousey, just another guy here, so to speak, in this match. You know, like how to take somebody who's a household name and make them absolutely meaningless. This is one of the most pathetically booked matches they've done at WrestleMania with women, and they've done some real shite at WrestleMania. I remember the one that they did a couple of years ago. It was I don't know if it was an elimination tag match or whatever, but that I thought that was like bottom of the barrel. But this is absolute bottom of the barrel. This is the worst.
This is a complete waste of Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
An absolute. She went from being the female version of Brock Lesnar and being a special attraction. Because she's legitimately at one point in time was legitimately the baddest woman on the planet.
Yeah.
And they took her and made her just another person on the show. Like she has lost everything that made her special.
Yep.
Her first run, say what you want about her. She was booked right. She never wrestled on TV. She only wrestled at pay-per-views. Every one of her, much like you've never seen Brock Lesnar wrestle on Monday Night Raw since 2002. There's a reason for that. You've never seen him wrestle on SmackDown since 2004. There's a reason for that. It keeps that specialness to him. She had that specialness coming in here. Even if she's not the champion, there still is a whole thing where, she still has name value. Now she's who's she facing? Shotzi and somebody else. And
yep.
like, why? I mean, the only thing that could, as I said to you before we started, this match and the next match, I consider them both unnecessary. They're completely unnecessary. I mean, if you're going to do this, just put them in the damn Battle Royal. Put the Battle Royal on there. I'd rather watch that.
Right.
I really would. At least there'd be more people in there, and we could just watch Ronda Rousey throw everybody at.
Yep.
And the same thing with the men's. If you're going to do, the whole. This is a Raw or a SmackDown match. It's completely unnecessary. The only thing that could be a saving grace for this, it's not elimination, is it?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
That doesn't matter. I mean, this is.
I hope not.
I hope not too. If you're watching this. This is what I'm going to be watching for this match and in the men's showcase match. I'm going to watch the crowd to see how many people are going to the bathroom or going to the concession stand. They're just leaving. This is completely unnecessary, and it doesn't add anything to the card other than bloat it up. And at least the sort of meeting, and they kind of like try to, pretend it has some kind of prestige when they first started them. Yeah, this is just unnecessary, and I don't care.
Jake Digman, this match, I'll be so angry if it's an elimination match and just prolonging it, because it's already going to be the equivalent of having pubes ripped out and turpentine poured in the wound. So to have it go on as an elimination match would be unnecessary torture on top of that to keep my tasteful analogy going. But yeah, this match is just pathetic. And to the whole thing of like, well, we didn't have a better way to book Ronda Rousey. Well, look, she doesn't seem to me like she's brimming with enthusiasm at this point. So it's like, cut her loose if you're not going to use her. Like, using her in this kind of a match, here's the thing, of like...
It's a waste of money.
Right. And like, this match...
She doesn't work for free. Like, I'm pretty sure Ronda gets paid a nice hefty sum for the matches that she works. She comes on there.
Right.
You're wasting your money with this.
Yeah, you're paying her top dollar to be in this forgettable piece of crap. And here's the thing. For all the criticism of Tony Khan, this is WWE's biggest show of the year. You find me a pay-per-view ever that AEW has had that has two matches like these two four-person tag or four-way tag matches, whatever. Look, I'll grant you there was some random crap last year at Forbidden Door. There was a lot of it. But you know what? At least every match rocked the Casbah, buddy. And that's the whole thing. It's not like they're going to go out here and treat this like it's All Japan Women circa 1990s. That ain't happening. It's going to be mid as hell. And again, Ronda and Shayna will probably at least go over. It'll probably at least be the right result.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, then again, they'll probably make Shotzi win or something. But I can see them doing something stupid. Not Shotzi. It was the Batgirl, Raquel Gonzalez Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Her name is.
Yeah.
I can see her win by pinning, what's her face, Chelsea Green.
Yes.
Like, where they don't even play into the finish at all. They're just like, okay. Real quick, you mentioned AEW. AEW actually just did this on their last pay-per-view. Their tag team title match was exactly this.
Oh.
It was completely...
Okay.
That was kind of just like, you didn't need Jarrett and Lethal and Danhausen and Cassidy.
Okay. It was unnecessarily...
It was unnecessarily
bloated. Yeah. I still don't think it's as bad as these two matches, but
at least it was for a belt. This is literally. We couldn't think of anything else for you to do, and apparently, people don't want to work with you, and we're paying you.
And these are not even officially number one contender matches. And the thing for Raquel Rodriguez, her alleged paramour is performing the same role in the next match here, Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman and Ricochet via the Street Profits, via Alpha Academy, via the Viking Raiders. My first thought as I look at this, to be the good smart mark that I am, is where's Imperium and all of this here? Gotta find room in there. I would pluck out one of these Haas teams, I think, to make way for them. But this is one where, again, Braun Strowman and Ricochet, the odd couple team here. I mean, again, part of me thinks could be the Street Profits, to maybe get another push here for the belts. But then again, are they going to do the breakup angle at some point? Are they going to do the breakup angle with Alpha Academy? Allegedly, Triple H would like to give a much better push to Chad Gable than he's gotten, to which I say, as the good smart mark I am, it's well past time that should have happened, but I'll take it whenever. The Viking Raiders, again, they've never known what to do with them. So this is one where don't know, don't care. I mean, my guess probably is Strowman and Ricochet just because, but I don't know. I couldn't care less, Jake.
You know what's the thing about this? The only thing, again, I agree with everything you just said. I don't care. Everything I said for the women's match applies here. This is a match that, if it was on Monday Night Raw, I would fast forward over it.
Yep.
This is literally a Raw match I fast forward over.
Oh, yeah.
It's a wrestling match for the sake of a wrestling match. There's zero story context to it whatsoever against guys. How many times the Street Profits and Alpha Academy face each other?
Yeah.
Hundreds. I don't care. I've seen it. I know how the story goes. I'm not. They'll do fancy moves. They'll be like, but whatever. Here's the thing I want to point out. We mentioned, we're talking about Ronda Rousey in the previous match. To a lesser extent, Braun Strowman, man. When Braun Strowman left WWE, he was like a main event top guy. He was he was the. People forget this. He was the guy that Roman Reigns pinned to win Bray Wyatt's Universal Championship, who had just won it from Braun Strowman like the week prior.
Yep.
He was in that mix. He was in the hunt. And he comes back and he's just like, he going to turn on Ricochet? I said I saw a turn coming at WrestleMania. This is also not the match where that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll go with those two winning. Sure, I guess. I don't know. I really don't care. I don't see, even if this is a number one contenders match coming out of this, okay, but those two just had a tag team title match not too long ago.
Yeah.
I don't see Alpha Academy winning because they're in the process of splitting them up. So, what the heck? It's either going to be them or the Street Profits. But quite frankly, the true winners of this is going to be the concession stand lines and the bathrooms. Well,
absolutely. Good chance to poop out your Crunchwrap Supreme or whatever you were eating in the matches before this. But I will say this, for Braun Strowman, the trajectory here, WrestleMania 34, teaming up with a 10-year-old kid to defeat the Bar and become tag team champions, to 5 years later teaming up with Ricochet and maybe not even winning a mid-card tag match. Again, maybe Braun Strowman isn't controlling his narrative as well as he thinks, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So,
but at least you can look on the bright side. At least his tag team partner's slightly taller than
he is. Ricochet is slightly taller than a 10-year-old kid. And since we just ragged on him, and a billion times more awesome. Ricochet, one of the most awesome wrestlers on the face of the planet.
Love me some Prince Puma.
Absolutely. And, Ricochet more than any other guy in this match by a mile, too good for this slop. When we talk about the tag team champions here, this is a match that, again, I think is likely to be night one, because I think they're going to split up the bloodline stuff. The match that at minimum should be the main event of night one, and a match that, if I'm going to go true smart mark here, it should be Sami Zayn being the guy who beat Roman Reigns, but that ship has sailed. They didn't even have Kevin Owens do the reunion with him in Montreal. They just left it the flattest of flat finishes here. Nevertheless, there is still a decent amount of hype for this. The Usos v. Owens and Zayn for the Tag Team Championship. And again, the Usos are an act that, to be honest with you, I have found to be pretty stale for years, but the Bloodline has reheated them up. Owens and Zayn, the on and off thing. Remember, they did the match, I think it was 2 years ago in Tampa, and it was just... And it felt kind of forced. It's like, oh, the latest incarnation of these guys of all these years and whatever. But I mean, look, this time around, they've gotten a lot of people into it, including me. Even the nice whole smart inside reference that they made to that they really got to be huge as a tag team in the City of Angels, and now they're coming back to wrestle for the World Tag Team Championship. Nice little PWG shout out there. And again, I'm pretty hyped for this one here. I think it is going to be Owens and Zayn going over. Let me put it to you this way. For any of the fears that they have about the main event night 2, Sami Zayn not walking away with at least a tag title, and I think they're smart enough to know this, it raises the odds by a gazillion that Cody Rhodes is over flatter with the crowd than he should be in the main event. Sami Zayn needs to come away with gold. If not, the smart marks in the crowd could end up taking it out on Cody later on.
Yeah, I could very much see that happening. This is another one where I have actually really enjoyed the build to this as far as long-term storytelling goes. And completely unexpected storytelling, too.
Right.
Coming off last year when Sami Zayn faced Johnny Knoxville in a match, and some people, I guess, absolutely loved. And I was like, this is terrible. But, like, other people around me, I had friends of mine who were huge Jackass fans who thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I'm like, okay, I'm just watching dude get buried here, but whatever. But maybe, I'm not the audience that they were targeting for that. Just the way they rehabilitated Zayn. As somebody who told you a year ago that he'd be the most popular guy in the company, you wouldn't have believed it. The storytelling they've done with the Bloodline and the Usos, it makes me proud because I don't know if you remember our draft we did when they first did the brand splits, and I pitched the idea of Roman and
yes.
The Usos together with Joe as their heater, which, I mean, okay, we got Solo instead of Samoa Joe, but it was kind of the vision that I had there,
yes.
With this whole idea behind this. So I'm glad you remember that. So
yes.
Watching this is kind of like an idea of like, was a friend of ours listening on my phone? Listen to that conversation we had when we did that draft, Just saying, maybe we have people listening that we don't know about. But as far as long-term storytelling goes, it's been, oftentimes I will fast forward through stuff and only watch frontline segments because the rest of it is just wrestling for the sake of wrestling. I hate to say that, but it's true, especially when it comes to like the weekly television products that you yourself said you kind of have distanced yourself from.
Yep.
Which is the way they have done this. And again, I have said, if you pay attention, especially with the way Kevin Owens embraced Zayn after everything that went down, and there's a part of me that has said, I can absolutely see Kevin Owens turning on Sami Zayn at WrestleMania and being like, how did you not see this coming? You should have very easily seen this coming to them. Just the way he re-embraced him, the way everything went, the slow subtleties, and the way that he's kind of been acting about stuff. It's almost like, he's not full on in. Sure, they've hugged and everything. However, I think those are just red herrings. I agree with you that I also heard another theory that Sami Zayn turns on Kevin Owens and the whole thing was a ploy. And I'm like, that just kills it dead in the water. That's a terrible idea. I could see WWE doing that. But if it was under Vince's regime, that's what would happen.
Oh, yeah.
I think we get the subtlety of will he or won't, the possibility of it happening. Kind of like think of like a la Mr. Perfect.
Yes! I was just thinking of that. He walked up the aisle.
Where he walks up the aisle.
I was there.
My fight.
I was there.
So,
Dude, I was just thinking of that. Yes.
and then also he comes back and helps them win. I could see, something like that, and then they have this. I really wish they wouldn't have hugged. I really wish it was still this uneasy alliance. Like, I will team with you, but I don't like you. I kind of think they missed the ball a little bit of just all of a sudden going to like, okay, we're brothers now. It just felt for a story that's been 8 months in the making, that felt really, really rushed. Like, he went from pissed off to all of a sudden just being like, no, I'm sorry, we're friends. Oh, that's all he had to hear? Dude, he said that for like months. That was odd to me. But we're here now. I think we're going to get that crowning moment of, the Usos going down, and for the first time ever, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being the tag team champions in the WWE. Were they ROH tag champs? I don't remember.
I don't think they ever were, but they were, I think, in PWG, as he had referred to.
Which, unless you live in that town, you never saw it. So,
well, that's true.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, a moment, and I think it'll give the crowd their chance to cheer and let out and let all their emotions, because, I agree with you. If they don't have Sami with something, they will crap all over the main event.
They will. And again, I agree with you. I think it's a red herring, but it is a little bit jarring that Owens, the justification he gave for not immediately embracing Sami, even after Montreal, was about will you let me get brutalized, a lot worse even at the Royal Rumble, and Kevin Owens was claiming the mantle of moral superiority as far as, I didn't let the same thing happen to you in Montreal, but it's not like we're brothers again. Like you said, it's been a little bit jarring. I think it's red herring. I think, like you said, it is shades of Mr. Perfect at the Survivor Series 92. I think it'll be them winning. And as far as, last year, I am a huge Jackass guy. That was right in my wheelhouse, so I can simultaneously say it's one of these things. Most of the time when WWE does things that I would be embarrassed if a non-wrestling person saw it, I would be covering my face. It was simultaneously embarrassing, but I was entertained. It's the only thing they've ever done that was that embarrassing where I was I can let it go because I laughed. I enjoyed it in that sense. Normally, I'm a little more humorless when they are, doing that kind of crap. But it was just so ridiculous. I just all the old Jackass gags. I'm just a sucker for that stuff. What can I say?
I did like Sami kicking the living crap out of Wee Man. That was pretty good.
That was great. And then I remember the classic from back in the day. My good friend and a one-time contributor to our show, my close personal friend Paul Pasick, he and I went to see one of the Jackass movies back in the day, and we went, and it was a matinee, and we were the only two people in the theater. And I was telling that to my dad, and he goes, "So between you two and the movie, there was just 3 jackasses in the theater." So I suppose I had that one coming, but Again, as far as a match that, how's this for a segue? I believe I'm still unmatched in this. I think you'd have to be a jackass to really be looking forward to this one for work rate. Rey Mysterio v. Dominic Mysterio. They're doing the father-son match at Mania. And there had been a school of thought that they would wait until maybe Dominic Mysterio ambushing him at the Hall of Fame to get him into a match the next day. But clearly they wanted to get this on the match or on the card prior to that. So again, Dominic has at least become interesting as a stooge heel, in this role. He has for the first time in his life become entertaining. And if you're going to have a thing going forward with the Judgment Day, if this is going to be a crew going forward, then like Dominic Mysterio as like the Buddy Roberts of the 2020s, that could have some legs to it. Like that guy is like the stooge for a faction. I could see that. I don't think he's got an upside beyond that. Then again, look, you have to have him go over Rey Mysterio. It's one of these things where you just, which again, so much for the feel-good moment at WrestleMania. The guy's in-great kid has been dogging him for months and months and months and months, and you go to see Rey go to get revenge, and hey, I guess the kid was right all along because he cheats to beat him. That part of it's going to be kind of awkward, but I mean, I'm assuming the young guy has to go over in this circumstance.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be some kind of dastardly cheating that Dominic does to win. Maybe Priest helps him. That's how Priest gets on the card. I don't know, and that's how which is sad for Damian Priest, but maybe that's how he gets on the card and he helps them win. And I think it leads to a rematch in a that we see at the is Extreme Rules coming up.
I think it's Backlash, and I think it's the next one. I think is in Puerto Rico. Look, there's been rumors about Bad Bunny making his way onto the card. You could maybe see that. Maybe that's the one case for Rey Mysterio going over. Bad Bunny comes out to counter the interference, helps Mysterio win. Maybe you get a tag team match in Puerto Rico.
I see that, and then you have plus the history of Bad Bunny and Priest from WrestleMania last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. I just see this leading up to an idea of, that's why I asked if Extreme Rules was coming up. It just seems like the perfect gimmick. An old school lucha libre gimmick coming out of this as the blow off to this, being mask versus hair.
Yes.
Where I see Ray, Dom cheating to win with the help of Priest. Hell, Bad Bunny comes out and saves Ray, then they can do a beatdown. Bad Bunny, of all people, comes out and does the save. Okay, whatever, it's what it is. They're not appealing to us with that.
Right.
But I think the ultimate payoff to this is mask versus hair, and Dom loses and gets his head shaved.
Well, yeah, very possibly. And again, if this is where the Bad Bunny spot comes in, because there's been talk about him being in a role that might have some physicality on the card, then I have a chance to be just like Nostradamus here with your whole thing about the bloodline years before it happened. I might be the guy that called something here before it happens. We shall see. But as far as the blood,
for you, buddy.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if it pans out. As far as the bloodline goes, we are looking at what theoretically should be the culmination of a years-long storyline with the bloodline. But then again, I mean, we were saying, I think we knew last year that he was going to go over Brock Lesnar. But like the year before, it was kind of like, this is a spot where, again, they could have put it on Edge. They could have put it on Bryan, whatever. They were building at some point to Rock versus Reigns, which didn't end up happening. You were saying back then, well, clearly that match doesn't need the belt, which I enthusiastically agreed with. But, they've gone along, they've done this, and this has been, for the modern era, sort of the heel equivalent of Bruno Sammartino back in the 60s. Because, again, in the modern cycle with all the pay-per-views, I mean, how many feuds a year really did Bruno Sammartino have? So, you could have him, and the way that Hogan was with the long reign in the 80s, it was easier to do long reigns back then. Much easier to do long title reigns when you didn't have the monthly pay-per-views and everything like that, or premium live events, whatever you want to call them. This has been very daring and very gutsy doing it with a heel and building them up in this way and everything. At a certain point, you got to pay it off with somebody beating him. That somebody, again, if you'd have told us this 15 months ago, the person to do it was going to be Cody Rhodes, I think we both would have laughed incredulously.
The face of AEW.
Yeah. Although,
And to the point where nothing has changed. He's
yeah.
the exact same character.
Yeah.
Which is just mind-blowing.
Well, yeah, and that's where, again, it kind of backed him into a corner because Roman Reigns with the whole thing of like, you couldn't get over here, you couldn't get over there. I mean, that's the whole, which by the way is a lie because Cody started off pretty hot there, and then, things went sideways with all the other rope that Tony Khan gave him. Tony Khan couldn't reel in the Cody verse, and that's what ended up, leading to him not being over. But I mean, this is kind of shades of like Triple H, Booker T, people like you don't win titles like this, at WrestleMania 19. Like Roman Reigns is kind of putting him in the position here and lording over him, kind of like
racist though.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the non-racist equivalent, yes, of doing that. But it's one of these things where, again, it's kind of backed it into a corner. I mean, it's really interesting because, again, the crowds have been, and people have been pointing this out, the crowds have been behind Cody throughout this for as much as a lot of the fans. 100% of the smarks wanted it to be Sammy going over and beating Roman, but the crowds have stayed behind Cody. But it's one of these things where, again, Mania is a little more smark heavy. For the whole thing we've been hearing about, in the days leading up to this, well, they're not 100% sure which way they're going on this. I mean, it would be funny. I do expect it to be Cody in the end because I think there has to be that payoff moment that they've been building to. And they want to have an equivalent. They haven't had one, but you go back 9 years. The outcry that there was, just the outpouring of love when Daniel Bryan won the title as he was known at the time, okay? It's not going to be that big if Cody wins it, but just the relief of somebody beating Roman Reigns. That's the thing where you could just really have that. And the determination they have to have a moment and crown somebody, but crown somebody they want to crown. They didn't want to crown Daniel Bryan. They went with it because they had to. But to crown a guy that they want to crown in Cody Rhodes. But it would be funny as hell in the middle of the match. If it's like split reactions or whatever, if they just called an audible, we're like, LOL, Roman wins again.
That would be funny. I don't see that happening for a couple of reasons. First one, this is an interesting tell in wrestling that I never really noticed, but now looking back on it in hindsight, it's 100% true. If a babyface says, I'm going to win the championship, they win the championship. If they say anything other than like, I'm going to give it my best, I'm going to give you the fight of my life, I'm going to give it everything I've got, means they're losing. Cody Rhodes has flat out said, I'm winning the championship. He's winning. Unless he turns heel, he's winning the championship. And just because, and that's what a babyface does. I think we're going to, Cody Rhodes, we're going to get that feel good, much not similar yet different, like you said, to the Daniel Bryan moment. That was something that could never be replicated. That was a moment in time. But it'll be the feel good, happy ending. Now, here's the thing where I'm going with on this one. Two things. One, do you think we see Brandy and Pharaoh as part of his entrance? Do you think we get the whole, like, AEW where everyone's on the stage and he walks out? Do we get the Cody elevator back? I say we do. Just because it's WrestleMania. I say we get that. That's going to be now, the big pizzazz and the huge entrance to it. This is where the turn comes that I said I think we're going to have. And I think we're going to pay off one of the longest stories in WWE. Jey Uso turns on Roman Reigns. I don't know how they get there. I don't know how the involvement goes. All you got to do is the ref bump. But it's Jey Uso's the one who ultimately, and he looks him right in between the eyes and waffles him with the chair. The place goes absolutely ballistic. Cody hits like 4 crossroads in a row, pins him 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And that's because that's the sub-story in this that's been going on since really the bloodline started, was with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns. And if you watch the story building to it with the story within the story has been the issues with, even with everything involving Sami, has been Jey and Roman. And I think this is it could be them losing the tag team titles in a backstage segment. As let's say they lose them on night 1, and Roman Reigns is just like, no, I don't want to be around losers or whatever. And that's like something simple as that. I don't know how they're going to get there, but I have a feeling Jey Uso is going to be involved in this somehow. Because let's face face it, every one of these Roman main events heel run, there's been some sort of ref bump, there's been some sort of bloodline interference in all of them. It just has. It just has happened. And I could see, I don't know if anybody else is going to get involved. I don't see The Rock or anybody like that coming down, but I think that the payoff to this is going to be that it's going to be Jey Uso turns on Reigns, and that's what leads to Cody getting the victory. And I think when Jey turns on Reigns, the place is going to erupt, and Cody winning is just going to feed off of that turn, because the fans have been wanting to see it for months. Much similar, not to the level of Sami Zayn, but similar to that. And they've kind of, like I said, they've kind of nudged at it a little bit. So it might be a little outside the box thinking, but I can very much see the Jey Uso being the one that causes the bloodline to implode. Roman goes down, and then goes on vacation, and maybe he comes back for a rematch at SummerSlam. Maybe it goes to somewhere else, but definitely see Roman Reigns taking some time off, and we see how long it takes until the fans turn on Cody Rhodes. Because something about his character, as you know, you get the feel-good moment winning it for Dusty and becoming the champion and everything. But if you notice, like everything, Paul Heyman's a little slimy little weasel, a walrus that always finds his way back around the champion. And the way Cody Rhodes has showed respect to him and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we see an alignment between those two at some point. But as far as on this night, we're going to get the babyface holding up the championships and celebrating, and perhaps, just perhaps, this is, the last time we see the Universal Championship as well. Who knows? But I think we get the feel-good ending, the reign comes to an end, it ties together a couple of storylines with the bloodline and whatnot. Cody finishes the story, as they've been hyping it up. They say finish the story. Jey finishes the bloodline story. Sami finishes his version of the story, finally getting a belt with his longtime friend. And I think it bodes for interesting things moving forward. And for the first time ever, we have no gold, no bloodline, and a new direction for WWE until they sell it. And I don't know, Vince puts the belt back on Brock.
Well, yeah, exactly. And again, it could go that way because, again, what you're referencing with Paul Heyman, you go back to 2015, the very beginning, the very, very beginning, the sunrise of the whole extended feud of Reigns and Lesnar that would go on and off for 7 years at WrestleMania. He was already dropping nuggets then about how far back he went with the Samoan family and everything like that, Roman's ancestors and everything. So the same way that Paul Heyman had the relationship with Dusty Rhodes. So this would not be the first time that had happened. So that would make sense as far as aligning them here at some point. Cody, yeah, he could very well wear out his welcome. And again, the thing with Jey Uso, my inclination on that would be to say that it's not smart, because I don't think you'd want to do anything to water down Cody doing it, getting the job done himself, take the spotlight off that in any way. But I've been wrong before, and when I was wrong before, it was actually 20 years ago last month, because I thought that the way that Eddie won the championship off of Brock back before WrestleMania, or actually that was in 2004, not 03, my bad. But Eddie Guerrero when he beat Brock Lesnar, so 19 years ago. Remember that it wasn't like 90% Goldberg interference that made it happen? And then I think like Eddie hit a frog splash at the end. And I was like, that's not the way I would have crowned Eddie. But you know what? It didn't matter. Nobody gave two craps. So maybe
revisionist history also eliminated the Goldberg version in that.
That's right. You never see it.
They never mentioned that. And the same thing with this, okay? Because it's a payoff to that. The only thing, the moment they'll show forever is Cody Rhodes doing the second or third crossroads and then standing there and going, and hitting that final one to get the pin. They'll leave the whole part of Jey Uso being involved completely out of it as the story goes on, as they tell the story years from now on, like, the 80 biographies or something. But, I mean, as far as, the whole premise of this is finish the story, and
right.
That's one of the stories that has to be finished. And I only say that because every single one of Roman's title defenses has interference.
You know what?
They've won that didn't have it. They've all had some sort of interference involved.
Yes. And Jake Digman, you're absolutely correct that their approach to everything is that history is written by the winners, and not just their revisionist DVDs that they did about the Monday Night Wars, but as far as like they'll do something and then down the road they'll put a completely different spin on it. There's never been a better example of this than what seemed inexplicable at the time, The Rock beating Cena at WrestleMania in 2012. We're scratching our heads until the next night when it becomes clear they're setting up for the next year, but it becomes how you going to get from here to there, to the frustration of me, you, and countless other people. They feed a red-hot returning Brock Lesnar to Cena the next month just to pump him up again. And Cena goes through a year, getting a lot of wins over key guys, not getting the win for the championship over CM Punk, but basically everything short of that for the next year. And then they get to WrestleMania the next year, and he's portraying it like, oh, after I lost to you, I was like homeless and destitute, and you were responsible for my divorce. This was the worst year of my life. They completely retconned the entire thing into John Cena had the worst year of his life. They were unwilling to have John Cena have the worst year in his life in real time because it would have taken money out of their pocket, but they retroactively portrayed it that way. The notion that they would do it this way with Cody winning on a lot of interference and then airbrushing it out of history is entirely consistent with how they've always done business.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't be surprised when it happens, Rick Morris. It's funny that you brought up the whole Cena thing,
yeah.
Cena Rock thing. Keith and I were watching it. She didn't watch back then, so we were watching the Rivals thing on A&E, and I'm sitting there watching. I go, none of this is how it happened. She's like, what? I go, oh no. And it's like Freddie Prinze Jr. And everyone was excited. We knew they had to do it again. I'm like, no one wanted that match.
Right.
If you watched it, the people groaned during it. They were like, the first one, everybody wanted. They were here for like, okay, it was like, a quote unquote dream match. The second one was like, dude, it felt like you just got like, that you had been hoodwinked and lied to.
Yep.
And as you said, the whole like, oh, John Cena, the worst year of his life. I'm like, if that's the worst year of your life, dude, I'll trade you, man. I'll trade you in a heartbeat because, it was funny. Just again, them, their WWE revisionist history, the fans were clamoring for it. Not a soul was clamoring for that match.
No.
No one wanted to see part two. Nobody was like, okay, Cena's got to get his win back. LOL, Cena wins. Nope. Nobody wanted it, and I'm like, they due to clever editing on that, they show like, Rock handing him the belt, pointing at him. They don't show you the crowd because the crowd is either leaving or vehemently booing, which was a theme for WrestleMania for about, with the exception of 30 and Daniel Bryan, pretty much is a theme ever since. If you really think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so 31, they booked themselves into a corner. You got
Roman and Brock with Rollins coming out.
Cash in to save that one. 32, them vehemently booing Roman and Triple H out of the building because no one wanted that at all. 33, the whole Undertaker Roman to get booed out of the building. 34, Brock and Roman hated on. 35, they botched the finish. I was there for that. The finish got botched. Everyone's like, I guess that's it. Yay. Okay.
Yeah.
That was kind of dumb. And the women, and then the pandemic, those don't count. And then everything after that, Roman smash.
Right. No, that's true.
Maybe we'll get back to like the good old days and what could to bring this full circle of how what could be the last WrestleMania as we know it. Maybe we'll get back to the good old days of how it used to be in the end of the day, where the babyface goes over, stands triumphantly, and the crowd goes home happy. We shall see.
Well, we'll see. And again, as far as it went with Cena, a couple of thoughts on that. You're absolutely right because again, the thing that people were dreading about the first one was the outcome on the first one seemed certain because they kept doing the whole one-time only kind of a deal. And it's like, oh, so they're going to do it where, the cynical thing, and then this is Rock's going to, endorse him as the star of the next generation and hold his hand up. So it was like when it didn't happen the first year, everyone knew Cena was going over the second year. Everyone knew you were getting the dreaded forced endorsement here. But the thing that's hilarious is this thing of like the greatest star of this era versus they portrayed it as the greatest star of the previous era. I'm sure Stone Cold Steve Austin had his hand in the air like, what about me, fellas? But as far as that went, like Rock endorsed John Cena it wasn't 11:59, but it was 11:55 of Cena being like the central figure, because it was just by the next year Cena was wrestling for he was wrestling Bray Wyatt the next year. He was wrestling Rusev for the U.S. title the next year. Like, never again would John Cena be in a world title main event at WrestleMania. So, like, the matches against The Rock capped off his run. It wasn't a matter of, like, he's endorsing our star to go forward. No, that was the end of Cena being as central as he was. Isn't that hilarious?
But, the irony of that is when Hogan did it for Rock, Rock left right after that, too.
Yes.
It was the exact same thing that happened.
Yes.
So, Andre passed the torch to Hogan. Hogan passed it to Rock. And Rock's like, oh, cool, thanks. Here, I'm out. It's like, oh, hey, thanks for this torch. Can I use it to guide me through the mummy's tomb? That's what he did with it. Oh, yeah, you're right. The whole thing with Cena. It's like, oh, my God. He passed the torch. It's like, yeah, he's the guy now. No, he's been the guy. That was, 2013 that happened? He's been the guy for 7 years.
I mean, and that's the whole thing. Listen, with Cody winning this, I mean, the thing that's incredible is that this has the chance to be the biggest babyface win at Mania. And again, as far as ones that they want, not the ones that were forced on them. Because you've got, if you go back, this would be the biggest babyface win at Mania, as you've indicated, since Daniel Bryan, as he was then known, at WrestleMania 30. Prior to that, because of the Cena years, you kind of got to go back to probably Benoit and Guerrero at 20, which we choose not to remember these days for obvious reasons. So it's like...
Which is weird because I was there.
Yeah.
That's such an odd one for me, because that was the moment being there live. That if it wasn't for me being there live, you and I would not be having this conversation right now.
That's true.
It was going to that show and seeing Chris Benoit win the him and Eddie Guerrero holding up the belts is what inspired me to go to broadcasting school and to pursue, quote unquote, pursue my dreams. And which is really weird in retrospect now. Just kind of I can still remember the emotion in that moment, but I always have to look at it as like a bubble in a moment in time because of everything that took place afterwards. It's just so bizarre for me personally. And the aforementioned Pencil was also at that event and had very similar thoughts as well.
That's right. That's right.
It's just one of those I don't take fault in how I reacted in that moment in time right there. But it's one of those things, I tell people that story and they're just like, oh, especially when I'm announcing, and I'm like, yeah, it's like, oh, how did you get involved in ring announcing? I go, well, here's an interesting story for you. And I tell them, they're like, oh my, that reaction, I can lie and not, but no, that was the moment that inspired me, because the whole idea of, never giving up, 18 years of hard work, and then, 3 years later, who gives a crap?
People,
here's real life.
I love it. People ask you how you got inspired to get into all of this, and the answer you give them could very well be, I was so inspired by a man who would go on to murder his entire family.
Right. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy. It's like, kind of like, it is what it is in hindsight, but it's just, life is weird like that, man.
Well,
21, Batista beating Triple H was, people were, and Cena, over
you're
JBL,
right.
people were clamoring for that.
You're
that
right.
Might have been, because I'm trying to think of any of the other ones.
No.
24, Undertaker Edge, no, that was just like, he wins.
That was kind of flat.
That was flat. 25, God, no, that was
You got to go back to the Attitude Era, and again, to come full circle on our broadcast here, which is going to be 2 segments here by the time we're done with it, but 01. We started off talking about WrestleMania 17, how that was the end of the era with WCW, which could be a similar moment in time to what we're seeing as the end of this era of WWE. And you still had the crowd that was very much behind Steve Austin in that moment. That was the thing. The crowd chose to overlook Vince McMahon joining up with him in that moment. It almost seemed to play more to the live crowd as a Vince McMahon face turn than a Stone Cold heel turn. So... you almost have to go back to the Attitude Era, and then, Stone Cold's wins at WrestleMania, certainly. So this moment with Cody, we haven't had a whole lot of moments like this in the last 2 decades plus.
So weird. God, it's so weird. It didn't really dawn on me until you brought it up. It's like, for how long Vince McMahon stuck a giant middle finger to the most passionate members of his fan base?
Jake, more than half the history of WrestleMania. This is 39. WrestleMania started off in the Hogan years being defined by babyface wins at WrestleMania. And then that was the case, I think, pretty much throughout the Attitude Era. And then again, the first time of a heel winning WrestleMania 2000 with Triple H. I think of that as a throwaway show because you didn't have Austin on the show there. So I think they looked at it like if ever there was a moment we could do it, it was a 4-way match anyways, which kind of, watered it down. It wasn't Triple H and The Rock head up at WrestleMania like it very well should have been. So, but the next year you get back to that pattern. It's Austin and The Rock. Austin wins, but like I said, the crowd pretends to ignore the heel turn. But we've had for more than half the time, the history of WrestleMania, it's been mostly downer moments at the end of WrestleMania. I mean, it's incredible to think. We're just thinking about this now, putting this into perspective in real time. But, at the end of the show...
Does it count as a triumphant babyface conquering if no one gives a crap about the babyface? I'm looking at you, Triple H, and your 2 WrestleMania babyface
That's it.
main event wins.
02 and 09. Yeah, could hear a pin drop both times. And
I remember being at WrestleMania 18, and he wins, and he holds up the belt, and after the show, he goes, "It's time to play the game." But my buddy went with me, went with us to the show. He looks over and goes, "Is that it?" I go,
"Yeah."
He's like, I go, "Yeah, that's it." He goes, "That's all he's going to say? That's all that's going to happen?" I look at him and I go, "What else do you want him to say?" He's like, "I don't know." And it was the first time I ever experienced leaving as my first WrestleMania, and I walked out just feeling flat because we were such huge NWO marks.
Yeah.
Like, so the NWO's dead, and that's just it. He just won it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was just so flat. That's so sad.
Well, I'm going to I'm going to close the show here by going back to a WrestleMania memory from that era here, just to try and pop you with a story here. I may have brought this up before, in which case it'll be diminishing returns on how much you laugh. I don't remember. But WrestleMania 20, while you were there watching it live, Benoit was my favorite wrestler at that time as well, I must admit. So I'm watching it at Harpo's here in the Cleveland area, which had just moved from its previous Brook Park Road location to Smith Road. They're having the grand opening that week. The owner of the Sports Talk Network, good old Boat Shoes himself, he had preferential treatment there. So he had, a marquee table there in that place. That place was filling up rapidly. So I'm sitting there at the STN table, and they're waving in other people here too. There were some SRO people there, so there were some strangers getting seated amongst us. So I'm sitting there, and I'm next to this biker-looking dude, tough biker-looking dude, sleeveless T-shirt, black sleeveless T-shirt, whatever. And I go to order like a whole bunch of wings. I was really kind of a glutton on that day. I just got like a gigantic thing of wings, and I'm expecting something similar. And this biker-looking dude next to me is like, "Fettuccine Alfredo, please." I'm like, didn't see that one coming.
So, that's great. No, you never told me that.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say he was like, "I'll just have a salad."
I mean, close enough. Close enough. I was not expecting Dude Bro next to me to go Fettuccine Alfredo. So, all right. Well, I'm glad I can bring this all the way around, giving you another pop there for the road. But Jake Digman, you gave me many pops along the way here in the course of doing this. As always, a priceless thing to get to preview any kind of wrestling event with you. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this one, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to the next time we can do this.
I look forward to it too, buddy. We'll be back on breaking down the pro graps again before you know it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for checking out the FDH Lounge preview of WrestleMania 39 with the great Jake Digman.